everyone. My name is Dr. Munir, and I'm the volunteer founder director of Global Forum for Teacher Educators and the Global Academy of Open Educational Resources. I'm the editor of this book titled Inclusivity, Ethics, and Accessibility for Learners with Disabilities. I warmly congratulate all the global authors who have contributed their knowledge and expertise to this meaningful project. Your dedication to making knowledge openly accessible at no cost reflects a powerful commitment to equity and shared learning. Persons with disabilities are entitled to the same rights and opportunities as everyone else. Yet, behind their resilience and constant adaptation within societies lies a deeply felt narrative that often goes unheard. This book seeks to acknowledge, amplify, and thoughtfully engage with those realities. The book brings together multidisciplinary perspectives, each exploring disability through diverse academic and practical lens. I extend my deepest gratitude to all the authors who believed in the vision of publishing this book as an open educational resource. Your generosity and collaborative spirit have made this endeavor possible. I would also like to sincerely thank Rhoda Garland, Commissioner for the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, Government of Malta, for her insight and thoughtful foreword that has been added in the book, which adds significant value and perspective to this book. Thank you all for being the part of this important milestone. We now move forward for a panel discussion. We are joined by a few authors. Just to inform, the recording of the panel discussion is taking place. We will be uploading it on YouTube and on Facebook for the members who couldn't join it today. So thank you, everyone. We'll start with the first question that I want to pose to you all. The question is, if you can just share overview about your chapter and your overall experience with Open Book. I'll start with Dr. Ivan.
Yes, thank you. You can hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity to participate in this book. I think it's really very important to look at this issue of how do we teach about disability in higher ed. I think it is one thing to know about disability, and it is another to know how to teach it. Having the pedagogical skills is really important. But I think it is quite another to know how to engage and bridge the difference between head and heart. So for years, I taught about disability in hopes of enlightening students to be smarter and to have some skills. But who ended up being most enlightened was me. I think that this was because I had a family member who had a disability, and so I saw it from a family perspective. And that was sometimes heart-wrenching because I saw that they were not treated fairly. But it was different when I had a disability, and I saw that I was not treated fairly, and I saw how my human rights were violated. And so I think that as an educator, it is one thing for us to know about disability, but if we really want to change hearts and minds, we need to go into that next level to feel it and to know it on a more intimate level. So that is what my chapter is about. So thank you for allowing me to make that contribution.
Thank you. Over to you, Stefanos.
Yes. First of all, I would like to thank you, Munir, for inviting us to contribute to this important chapter. A special thanks to Yvonne, as I said before, in a private conversation among the authors, for connecting us with you. And of course, I would like to say, everyone, thank you for being here Sunday for this launch of this important book. Hello to everyone, and of course, hello to all of our neighbors here in Greece, in Balkans and Europe. Thank you very, very much. Now, regarding our contribution to this important book, to be honest, we are three authors. Me, the head of the social department, Electra Spirou in EAS NGO here in Greece, and Angeliki Doula, who is the head of psychologist here in this NGO. I'm also a postdoctoral researcher and advisor to this NGO. So we felt the importance and the need to share our experience in the field of mental health, of disability, and of child protection in this chapter. Actually, our chapter explores the connection between children's rights, education, and child protection systems. Our central idea, the chapter's central idea, is that education is not only a right to learning, but also a key mechanism for protection, stability, and social inclusion. We follow, as Yvonne said, the rules and the rights and the spirit of the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. And in this convention, the right to education is closely linked to the rights to protection, participation, and development, healthy development. When education and child protection systems operate separately and fragmentally, children in vulnerable situations risk being excluded from both systems, and the educational system and the child protection system. So the chapter focuses on two groups of children, children with disabilities and at the same time children who have been removed from their families. These groups were selected first of all following the experience of the IASIS, the spirit of the book, but also because they are among the most vulnerable and often non-visible groups within both education and child protection systems. Through our chapter, we want to emphasize that despite any difficulties, when child protection system and educational system works closely together, creates beyond a space of learning, but also a space of stability, a space of safety, a space of inclusion. And this is something that we want to emphasize for more integrated, trauma-informed, and right-based approaches inside the educational system, as well as meaningful participation of children in decisions affecting their lives. This is our message. This is what we want the readers, we want in IASIS, the readers to read. And thank you very much again for this opportunity. Working with you and all of the authors were a fantastic experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oliver?
Is it me?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear it. So thank you very much again for having me today. The chapter that I wrote for this book is entitled Literacy Programs and Practices for Learners with Disabilities in Non-Formal Education in the Rural Philippines. So I'm one of the consultants for Non-Formal Education Association in the Philippines for literacy projects, and one of the NGOs that I am connected to is called Scholar Reading Center. Even in urban areas, inclusive education poses a lot of difficulties, more so in the rural areas of any other developing country like the Philippines. It's difficult to implement because learners with disabilities often have limited support services and persistent stigma within their communities. So the chapter that I wrote focuses on how rural conditions, disability, and access to literacy intersect in the everyday experiences of families participating in a non-formal reading program in Silang Cavite. Silang Cavite is 80 kilometers or in miles, that would be about 120 miles away from the capital city. And drawing the experiences drawing on the experiences of parents of five learners with disability who participated in a government recognized NGO reading program. The study shows that non-formal learning environments can support social learning and literacy practices for learners with disabilities. So the top three improvements through a non-formal education for learners with disabilities are: children's confidence have improved, reading engagement has increased, and social participation have greatly increased. And aren't this the goal of any formal education, whether in the urban or in the rural sector? And the program also provided a supportive environment for parents, reducing feelings of isolation commonly experienced in rural contexts. As you know, parents are experiencing a lot of stigma, especially if they are first-time parents with learners with disabilities. It could be a lifetime emotional stigma going on in their hearts and in the lives of the parent. And having reducing the feeling of isolation, isn't also that the goal of the Ministry of Education in any parts of the world, whether it's a developing or a developed country, to help the emotional isolation of learners and also of the parents with disabilities. And therefore, non-formal education could also play an important role in um, in helping learners with disability to be part of a real authentic inclusion. So the study proposes specific ways in which NGO-led literacy programs can be linked with existing inclusive education efforts in the rural areas, at least in Southeast Asia. And I want to provide some background of the NGO's non-formal education initiatives. So, of course, we know what a regular school goes. They have a shadow teaching and all this assistive learning programs. But non-formal education programs in the Philippines, sometimes they have this so-called read it to win it passport system, wherein participants earn stamps for each completed reading activity. And once they accumulate 100 stamps, they may exchange them for prizes such as toys, school supplies, or food items. Now, every Friday, the center provides or conducts feeding program alongside storytelling sessions and interactive games, fostering both literacy development and social engagement. Now, with this environment, children participate collectively without distinctions, being regular learners and those with special needs. So if that's the case, the learners with disability are really experiencing authentic inclusion because activities in non-formal education are shared and community-based. Therefore, differences are neither emphasized nor highlighted. And I think that's the very main goal of inclusive education. As a result, learners with disabilities experience authentic inclusion, enjoying learning, and social interaction without stigma. Apart from this, one of the most important findings of this paper is that non-formal education could be part of a policy, could be recognized as a policy in order to connect regular program to non-formal education programs, wherein learners with disabilities would be able to get credit and be able to move forward to the next step of education. So this is the goal of the paper, to have it recognized and have a policy as a non-formal education initiative, and therefore making it um, a one-step ladder towards getting credit, in order for learners with disabilities who don't go to regular schools would be able to have that so-called promotion. We call it promotion to the next level of the learning process, whether it's in the grade school or in the high school level. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Sylvester?
Thank you very much. So thank you for the opportunity to briefly share the key insights from my chapter, which is called Transforming Learning Through Inclusion, Ethics, and Accessibility in the AI Era. and basically to reflect on my experience contributing to this open access book. So basically, the starting point of the chapter is simple but essential, that artificial intelligence, or AI, is not really neutral, because as AI becomes embedded in education through adaptive learning platforms, or learning analytics, automated feedbacks, or generative tools, it really reshapes not only how learning happens, but also who benefits from it. So when we are speaking, for example, about learners with diverse disabilities, this creates both real opportunities, but obviously significant risks as well. So one of the chapter's central arguments is that educational inequality for learners with disabilities is multidimensional. So it is shaped by unequal access to digital infrastructure, for example, by limited availability or interoperability of assistive technologies, also uneven institutional readiness, for example, and underrepresentation of the disabled learners in, for example, data and decision-making processes. So when AI is introduced basically into systems that are already unequal, it can obviously unintentionally reinforce or amplify these existing barriers. So key risks which I discuss in the chapter is, for example, algorithmic bias, that AI systems rely on data to personalize learning or automate decisions. Yet learners with disabilities are often underrepresented or misinterpreted in those datasets. So as a result, AI tools may misread this assistive technology, uses disengagement, can fail to recognize these diverse learning patterns, or recommend pathways that can disadvantage certain students. And these are basically not just technical issues, but they reflect deeper structural inequalities. So at the same time, in the chapter, I try to emphasize that AI also holds genuine transformative potential, right? So when it's designed and governed responsibly, then AI can support this multimodal learning, flexible pacing, personalized feedback, and as well greater learner autonomy. So this is where accessibility by design, or this universal design for learning, becomes really crucial. So that inclusion cannot be an afterthought or a compliance exercise, but it really must be built in from the start. So when we align AI with this universal design for learning principles, it benefits not only students with disabilities, but also improves learning environments basically for everyone. So the chapter therefore argues for this rights-based and ethical approach to AI in education. It draws on international frameworks such as UNESCO's recommendation on the ethics of AI, the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, different EU policies as well. So that transparency, explainability, data protection, meaningful human oversight, they are really essential to building trust, to safeguarding learner agency. And equally important is participatory governance, that learners with disability, they must be involved not just as users, but also as co-designers and basically as contributors to this decision making. So to be brief, I also would like to end with brief reflection that contributing to this open access book, it was really deeply meaningful experience. It's also built up on my previous work and research with Dr. Munir. And basically, the open nature of this publication, it also, in my mind, reflects the chapter's core message that discussions about inclusion, about ethics, and accessibility must themselves be accessible, right? So working on this chapter, it really reinforced my belief that this inclusive AI is not primarily a technological challenge, but an educational ethical commitment as well. So ultimately, the way we design, the way we govern AI in education today, it will shape who is included in the future of learning and who is left behind. So I really hope that this chapter and this book help move us from good intentions towards really meaningful and inclusive action. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your insights. Vitaly?
Okay, okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Let me show you. Let I share my uh, paper list because some people better understand when reading. Okay, and I will gladly share you the the main points of my chapter of my article. Can you see it on your screen?
Yes, we can.
Uh-huh. Okay. I am interested in psychological support for my students and for people in general. And the name of the chapter is AI-based psychological support for students with disabilities in Kazakhstan, because Kazakhstan, as many other countries, has its own specific, its own history and cultural and so on backgrounds. And the first of all, besides physical barriers and different troubles and limitation, you know, there are a lot of social problems for disabled young people, and isolation, and you know, the process of studying at the universities can be very hard for them, and sometimes even with discrimination, and environment is not very friendly. But let's now talk about cultural context. Can you see? Many of you have told about stigma, or the guy from Philippines, for example, rural and so on places. And as a matter of fact, in many countries, developing countries, people are not very rich, especially families with disabled children, and they don't get enough money to ask for help from specialists, from psychologists. And we made a kind of survey, and we asked about more than 200 students, and you will see in my chapter the results of this survey, this no test investigation. So, but now more than half of students trust and use different tools, AI tools, for just to talk, to decrease stress, to put their thoughts on the screen and try to get answers and so on. You know, there are some. It's a new theme, new approach to use different artificial intelligence assistance in solving different psychological problems. And I think we should pay quite enough attention to it. And you know, most AI instruments are were constructed and built in Western countries with Western mentality and mindset. And for Kazakh people and for many not Western but Eastern people, and for the countries, for example, of former USSR, we have another viewpoint and tradition and so on. And some advice, some pieces of advice from artificial intelligence assistance can be not concrete, and they reflect Western individualistic mentality, not and their advice can be harmful or useless. And that's why it's very interesting field to study, to research how to improve this opportunity to get psychological help. But we don't think that it's always the best choice to find to ask artificial intelligence in some different difficult moments. And I would like to show you that I can't move my and we should use AI, as you can read, as a springboard board, but not a trap, not a space, but a not safe space students, for students in general, and especially with disabilities, with limited possibilities, and so on. Yes, main goal you can see reducing isolation and so on, and to take part more in social life, and there are a lot of it's very convenient tool because it is available every day and every night, but there are a lot of risks and different danger situation using only this tool as a very simple, and certainly universities should explain students, people in general, all the dangers of using artificial intelligence as an assistant, as the only assistant into different difficult situations. And as a summary, you all agree with it that technology should serve as a bridge to the real world, real social environment, but not as the only way to cope different problems. And yes, certainly, it's very short, and I really hope many of you will read the text and give your opinion, write some opinion, feedback to my address somehow. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for attention. I try to somehow get back to your screen. Here.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Moving forward towards Pankuri, if you can just summarize your chapter.
It was a question.
No, I'm just asking Pankuri to summarize her chapter. I request all the authors to please keep your mic open because, okay.
Okay.
Yes, Pankuri.
Yeah, I was about to tell you that I'm not unable to unmute
No.
myself. Firstly, I would like to thank you, panel, and thank you so much for this opportunity. And quickly moving towards what basically I have done in my chapter. So before I share what children told me, let me share what I listened. My framework is built around subjective well being, especially the wheel of well-being, adapted for Indian context. Think of it as a wheel of interconnected spokes: health, family, schools, experience, peer networks, and digital participation. So every spoke affect the other. If one breaks, the whole wheel wobbles. Traditionally, education metrics like enrollment, attendance, test score, and device ownership only measure whether the wheel exists. They do not tell you if it is actually turning. But subjective well being asks children directly: do you feel safe? Do you feel seen? Do you feel you truly belong here? That is the difference between measuring access and measuring inclusion. So, my core argument through this chapter is when I applied this lens to digital education, what I found was deeply uncomfortable. Children have devices, they had connectivity, the wheel looked intact from the outside, but spoke after spoke was broken emotionally, relationally, and socially. This brings me to my core argument that digital exclusion is not a personal failure, it is a design failure. When platform ignores the emotional and relational spokes of children well-being, they do not just fall short of inclusion, they actively create it. I call this digital disablement. Exclusion built into system that they were never designed with diverse children in mind. So my key findings during this chapter was
Mm.
a significant number of children showed severe emotional dependency on screen. One boy, 11, told me that phone is my only friend when I am tensed, and he used it as his when if feels it anxious if the battery goes down. So he was not lacking self regulation, he was navigating a system engineered for engagement, not well being. So this was there are many I have quoted many children's exact voices, and the contribution what I made through this chapter in response to what children revealed. This chapter proposed relational universal design for learning, extended conventional accessibility framework to include emotional safety and peer connection as foundational infrastructure. Alongside, this chapter proposes child accessibility councils where children sit as an expert co designer rather than a passive user. So, my chapter contributes in methodological as much as theoretical by treating children's voices as empirical evidences rather than just illustration. So, that subjective experiences is not a soft supplement to rigorous researches. It is often the most precise data we have. The people most affected by our system are also the most qualified to diagnose what is wrong with them. So, on a broader context, honestly, the experience that stayed with me most was not in the data writing or data analysis. It was in the field. When I was in the field, sitting with children and realizing how much they already know about what they need and how rarely adults actually ask them. So, what strikes me most about this book as a whole, that in every chapter is with the same fundamental tension, the gap between what inclusive education promises and what learners with diverse need actually experiences. So that's all. I just wanted to conclude here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Moving towards the second round, I will be asking a particular question to each speaker, starting from Sylvester. Sylvester, your chapter is quite interesting when I'm talking about artificial intelligence and inclusivity. I have a question that what are the key ethical aspects that should be kept in mind for inclusive AI in education?
Thank you very much. So definitely very good question. So definitely ethical governance that plays a central role here. So as I mentioned, we can draw on international frameworks that are already in existence. So for example, UNESCO's recommendation on the ethics of artificial intelligence, the UN Convention of the Rights of the Persons with Disabilities. We have in Europe, for example, EU Artificial Intelligence Act, And I mentioned in the chapter this rights-based human-centered approach. So if we have transparency, if we have explainability, data protection, and as well meaningful human oversight, these are really not an optional safeguards. This is basically ethical prerequisites for trust, for agency, and for inclusion. So the importance of this participatory governance.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Moving forward towards Stefanos. Stefanos, in your chapter, you have mentioned children participation in decision that affect their lives is a core principle of children's rights and a key condition for effective education and child protection systems. When children are meaningfully involved, they are more likely to develop a sense of agency, self-efficacy, and trust in the institutions responsible for their care and education. Despite this strong normative basis, children's voices remain systematically marginalized in practice. This marginalization is particularly evident for children with disabilities and for children living in alternative care. My question to you is, what factors are hindering the participation of learners with disability, especially those living in alternative care?
Thank you very much for this question. Actually, what is written in the article, the need for the children to be heard, is not my conclusion. It's also incorporated in the UN Convention for Children's Rights and specifically in the comments that are related to this convention. In Europe, in European Union, we have many child-friendly now directives that wants to reinforce and change all the services for children, child-friendly to a more child-friendly attitude and spirit, not only for the judicial procedures, but also for the health care, for the education, etc., etc. But it is well documented that the voices of children, especially for marginalized children, are not heard for many reasons. First of all, as you will read in my chapter, you will see that we are discussing about communication barriers. Still, all the procedures are in a non-child friendly way written and explained to children. In some countries, including my country and countries with the same mentality, there is a culture of overprotection and adult decision-making procedures that we know better than the child, and we have to protect them, and to protect them in brackets also from the procedure of taking decisions for their lives. Still, including also my country, still the child protection procedures are too complex for a child, even for an adult, for a professional to understand and navigate through them. There is a constant instability in the system. Services are changing, professionals are changing, but the children remain the same. The professionals and the system around them is keep changing. Of course, there is. I will conclude with two main remarks. First of all, that uh, children's voices are not being heard because professionals are not well trained on that. In many cases, professionals say that they know better than the child because there is a misconception. Uh, it's not necessary to follow children's opinion, but it's necessary to hear them. It's two different issues, and sometimes professionals mix them. And finally, based on our research, children sometimes feel that their views do not lead to real change. They don't receive feedback. They believe that they are not be heard. They cannot have access to info and decisions that affect their lives. So they quit their right to express their views for decisions that are related to them.
Okay, Thank you. Thank you so much. Moving forward towards Vitaly. Vitaly, I have a question that why do students with disabilities rely more often on AI-based psychological support in your context?
No, this is quite understandable, I guess. I myself a wheelchair user, and I met with isolation, and I know what to be kind of out of circle. And every disabled person needs social contacts to talk to someone, to discuss problems, to express feelings, and so on. That's why this tool as artificial chats, they make they can help, of course, but they give the illusion um, friendly attention, maybe some pieces valuable pieces of advice, and for them it's a kind of the way to get support. It's quite evidently, I would say, how to say, and of course it might be dangerous for them not to appeal, not to ask for some information from professionals, real people, but it is a kind of it's a way to find decision or to find support. But we should teach these students and every student how to use these tools wisely and attentively, and they should know that, for example, artificial intelligence don't take responsibilities for their advice, for its advice, and every artificial tool don't know all the circumstances, all the environment moments, and backgrounds of people, and so on. And of course, this tool is a part of life for some students, and we should use positive moments. We should try to get a real how to say, useful moments, potential. In short, it's the field of very deep analysis and research, and it's quite complicated um, theme field, and I just how to say, I just began to research this kind of psychological assistance. It's what I can say, can answer now.
Thank you. And I certainly believe that when we are talking about artificial intelligence, in my viewpoint, two things are very important. Number one, to take the ownership, and number two, to use it consciously. Because if we are using the artificial intelligence in different contexts, that's fine, that's great. But it's very important to have artificial intelligence literacy and to take the ownership of whatever you're doing with the use of artificial intelligence. Thank you so much. Moving forward towards Pankuri. Pankuri, your chapter has some elements of narratives, powerful narratives. And I have a question that, what do you think? How powerful is storytelling and narrations drawn from the lived experience of learners with disability? If you can shed light on that.
In my chapter, when I met with the boy who was he was a dwarf kid. So while he was telling me the scenarios, he was not very happy actually. He was he has been bullied very strongly, and I I think when a child like that faces such kind of childhood, it impacts a lot on him and his personality. So yeah,
So do you think
that's what
that
I.
teachers should use narrations as a powerful tool to empower learners and to gather their lived experiences?
Yes, yes, definitely. The narration is and the storytelling, which I have also used in my chapter, it plays a very good strong impact on the child memory. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Oliver, in your chapter,
Okay.
you have highlighted the significance of non-formal education non-formal education programs. So, what suggestion would you like to propose for non-formal education to the countries where there is a limited accessibility for pathways to literacy for children with disabilities?
Thank you. That's an amazing question. First of all, there should be a lot of stigma reduction campaigns. Reducing stigma related to learners with disability is not just, we need to increase this because it requires shifts in social attitudes in order to have a successful programs related to inclusion, related to education, related to shadow teaching in all types of learners with disability. As we always hear that it takes a village to raise learners, it we need to include also that it takes a village to raise learners with disability. So stigma reduction campaigns are first very important in non-formal education sectors. The second one is a partnership model. For example, schools, NGOs, and local governments. We need to encourage tripartite collaboration among public schools, civil society organizations, and local government to share resources, referrals, and data on out of school children with disabilities. Non formal education is a type of education where it is deemed to be very important in sectors of our society where formal education is not available. So that's why non-formal education is one of the basic educational sectors in areas where formal education is not available. Since those things are not available in rural sectors of our society, parent and caregiver capacity building is also very important. So when there's a limited institutional support, parents, for example, they can act as co-educators through structured workshops and simple home-based literacy toolkits. And this is quite difficult, but this could be done. This could be done by forming community local volunteers, ask assistance from faith-based groups and NGOs. This could be very, very helpful with all the limited resources that we have in the community. So evidence consistently shows that caregiver engagement, for example, it significantly improves literacy outcomes for learners with disability. And finally, the last recommendation, if I may suggest, based on the study, is that community-based inclusive learning hubs. Sometimes, when we try to establish small, specifically if it's decentralized, community-run literacy hubs, which are physically accessible and embedded within, for example, the local neighborhood. These community hubs can collaborate with parents, for example, local volunteers, faith-based groups, and NGOs to reduce geographic and transportation barriers. So these are some of the suggestions that we can actually um, think about and consider in order to have a real and authentic literacy inclusion for learners with disabilities, not only in rural communities, but also in the marginalized section of the urban communities, whether it's in a developing country or in a developed country.
Thank you. Moving forward towards Dr. Ivan. Dr. Ivan, you have a vast experience in the field of education and of working with diverse children and learners and youth and adults. My question is, what educational barriers do learners with disability face generally in terms of accessibility? And what suggestions do you have to make education more accessible for them?
Thank you for this question and the opportunity to listen to all of the authors share. I think that what I'm coming away with at this moment is this uniform agreement that we need to have better professional training, that as educators and professionals in the field, we often do not include youth voice. We do not include participation. And much of it is that we don't know how to do that well. And in the conversation about AI, certainly AI doesn't know how to do that well. And yet we find more and more people are relying upon that, especially young people. So I am intrigued about this challenge, about how we're going to move forward. How do we do a better job with our professional education around disability, especially for marginalized groups? And I think that's what's making this book a very powerful one. And having so many people participate from around the world in this event is really exciting. I think that we're looking at how to transition our thinking about disability from movement and to emotions, how we learn, to how we are thinking. I think that people with disabilities often see the world from a different point of view, especially folks who have some neurodiversity. And the thinking differently about how we're approaching this reality that we live in, I think is a really important thing. I'm working with a scholar now who's neurodiverse, and he's brilliant, but he has been shut out by the education system so many times because he isn't being normative. And so how do we make room for everybody? And I think that is the question, which I don't have a lot of answers for today, but being with this team together, we might. So thank you.
Thank you so much. We have one of the questions from one of the participants, Sridevi. Sridevi, are you there? Okay, she has posted a question in the chat box for Sylvester. Can I know how AI ethics are governed locally and internationally in European economic? In European countries, we have a vetting process when it comes to dealing with children and how this works digitally. Is there a protocol for digital vetting? How does AI ethics help digital vetting?
So thank you for the thoughtful question. So at the European level, AI ethics and governance are obviously increasingly shaped by the combination of binding regulations and ethical frameworks which we have currently. Most notably, as I mentioned, the EU Artificial Intelligence Act. So this one introduced a risk-based approach to AI, where systems used in education and those affecting children are classified as high risk. So this means they must meet strict requirements related to transparency, human oversight, data quality, non-discrimination, accountability before and during deployment. And in parallel, we have frameworks such as UNESCO's recommendation on ethics of AI, and they use ethics guidelines for trustworthy AI. They provide at the same time normative guidance that influences our national policies and institutional practices. So at the national and institutional level, European countries, they typically govern child protection and safeguarding through their existing legal mechanisms. So such as criminal background checks, professional vetting for staff working with children. But however, when it comes to digital or AI-based vetting, there is currently no single harmonized digital vetting protocol across Europe. So instead, our digital tools used in safeguarding or monitoring context, they must comply with, for example, data protection law, GDPR, or child protection legislation. And where AI is involved, the requirements of the AI Act. So really, AI ethics play an important role. And in practice, AI ethics does not replace these legal vetting procedures, but acts as a safeguard to ensure that any digital or AI-supported processes used in education or child-related services, that they are lawful, fair, explainable, and accountable. So in Europe, basically, the direction of travel is very clear. So the AI systems that affect children, they must be used with caution, with strong governance, clear human responsibility. So I hope this clarified the European perspective.
Thank you so much. We have one of the lifetime members of Global Forum for Teacher Educators with us, Ivana. Welcome you. Ivana has shared something about the insights from her country about disability. Ivana, if you can share it live to all the speakers, that would be so great. What about the children with disabilities and difficulties in your country? What is happening?
Probably we have to unmute Ivana.
Ivana,
Yeah.
can you hear us?
Not unmute on my desktop. What's going on?
Now we can hear you. Yeah.
We can hear you
Okay,
now.
thank you.
Yeah.
Hello everyone. I in chat I wrote something about it's sad and hard for teachers in Republic of Croatia, and it's not the only country, I suppose, because we can't do anything without support of parents. If mother or father doesn't want to collect all the papers it's necessary to work with children with disabilities, we don't have in school, we don't have those papers, and sometimes we work things we're supposed to do the best with kids, but it could be hard. It's easier when we have support from doctors, from all of all of them who are involved in this process. I think it's necessary to have support from parents, and it's necessary to have support for all system for kids with disabilities.
Okay, thank you so much. So I think Sylvester has raised a hand. Yes, Sylvester.
Yeah, I will be very quick, but I just wanted to comment on that. Thank you very much, Ivana, for this important and honest reflection. So I just wanted to say that you highlight a challenge that is definitely not unique just to Croatia, but present in many educational systems where access to formal support is closely tied to documentation, parental action, so very similar in Slovakia. So this places teachers or educators in very difficult position. So we are caught between this professional responsibility to support the learner and as well these regulatory frameworks that limit what can be formally provided without this official recognition. So your point, which you made, it really strongly illustrates why this inclusion, why it cannot rely solely on this individual goodwill or informal adjustments. So obviously teachers, they often do their best, right, to adapt learning content, to adapt procedures, but there is a lack of formal pathways. This definitely that hinders both student progress, it hinders the quality of inclusion, and it exposes the educators to institutional risks. So I completely agree with you that there has to be some mutual cooperation between parents, between teachers, as well relevant institution, that this is a prerequisite for successful inclusion. And I think that Pankhuri was speaking about something very similar in her chapter. So it's very relevant also to the different countries across the globe. Thank you very much for that.
Okay. So the floor is open if any speaker would like to share anything before we close the panel discussion. Okay, so on the behalf of all the members of Global Forum for Teacher Educators, I warmly thanks all the authors for the insights. I will end this panel discussion with a quote of G.O.D. Human. Change never happens at the pace we think it should. It happens over years of people joining together, strategizing, sharing, and pulling all the levers they possibly can. Gradually, accentuating slowly, things start to happen. And then suddenly, seemingly out of the blue, something will tip. Thank you, all the speakers, and thank you, all the people who have joined this panel discussion. Thank you, and God bless you. The book